If you want to support the channel, then please check out my Patreon page to gain access to exclusive videos, take part in Q&As, and watch my retrospectives before they go live on YouTube. On the 3rd of April, Capcom released Resident Evil 3 for the Xbox One, PS4 and PC. This game is a remake of the classic PS1 game that came out back in September of 1999. This remake was announced not long after the remake of Resident Evil 2, which was one of my favourite games of last year and probably the most anticipated game from Capcom in years, as RE2 is considered one of the best games in the long-running franchise. With Resident Evil 3 being announced for a remake, I was excited like everyone else, and we wouldn't have to wait years for it to turn up. The original PS1 game went into production pretty quickly, as Sony wanted another title on their platform. Capcom were deep into development on Code Veronica, which had the original title of Resident Evil 3, which was set for release on Sega's new console, the Dreamcast. Capcom agreed to provide another sequel and renamed the Dreamcast title to Code Veronica, which arrived in February of 2000, but the resulting game on the PlayStation felt more like a side adventure to the events of RE2, and to many didn't feel like a fully fledged sequel, as you only play as one character. You can play as Carlos for a short while in the story, but the choice of starting out the game with an option to choose a different character was sadly missing. In efforts to cut corners, they set the story a few days before the arrival of Leon and Claire, and Jill's escape concludes after Leon and Claire finish their mission, so the developers got to reuse locations from Resident Evil 2. Jill, in her attempts to escape Raccoon City, is chased by a new weapon sent by Umbrella called Nemesis, who turns up to cause trouble as the monster hunts down the remaining members of STARS. The game focused on less puzzles and more on the action. The game was well received by the fans, but they expressed their disappointment by its short length. This new remake was under development for approximately 3 years prior to its announcement last year. The game was created using the RE engine that was used in Resident Evil 7, Devil May Cry 5 and the recent remake of Resident Evil 2. The producers said the team tried to honour the more action-oriented approach of the original game. Nemesis, one of the central aspects of the game, was redesigned and given new ways to track down players compared to Mr. X from Resident Evil 2. They wanted to give players the feeling that they were constantly being pursued by a relentless and agile bioweapon, by striking a balance between having players feel anxious and also giving them periods of respite. With the story, the game opens with Jill having a nightmare and awakens to find Brad calling her and warning her to escape her apartment now. The Nemesis smashes through the wall and chases her out the building. She finds Brad and he struggles to escape and gets bitten as he helps Jill. The Nemesis has caught up with her and Jill is saved in the nick of time by Carlos, a member of Umbrella's biohazard countermeasure service. They escape to the subway where she meets the other surviving members of Carlos's team, Mikhail, Tyrell and Nikolai. They have set up subway trains which they plan to use to evacuate surviving civilians from the city, but the power needs to be restored and they are unaware the Nemesis is still alive and is after Jill. I loved the remake of Resident Evil 2, so I was really excited to see what Capcom was going to do with Resident Evil 3. My initial feelings on it after playing it for a couple of hours, I felt it was a bit underwhelming. The graphics were yet again stunning, the cutscenes looked so lifelike. Jill's new redesign seems to be modelled on actress Mila Jovovich from the god-awful Resident Evil movies. She is not like for like the same, but from her side profile and how her hair is styled, there is a definite likeness. The presentation remains high throughout and the excellent gameplay is intact, but I wasn't feeling as invested in it. The option now to run around a city instead of focusing the story inside a police station felt thrilling as an idea, but in execution it's disappointing as you are very limited on where you can go as many areas are cornered off, which makes sense in the story to hold back the zombies, but it makes the game ultimately feel small in scale. As the story unfolds and I got to play as Carlos, I found myself getting more invested into the game. Honestly, the plot is a bit thin throughout the cutscenes and is extended through the notes, diaries and paperwork you pick up. There is quite a lot to find, but I don't think most people will bother to read all the on-screen text. I feel Capcom should have provided a more of an even balance between the cutscenes and the notes you find along the way, as the overall story that is given to us in the cutscenes is a bit light. The Nemesis and how he comes about is quickly shown in the intro, but his backstory and how he's been created isn't explained in the main story. I think it would have been cool if they had made attempts to expand his character and offer more insight from Umbrella. With this being a remake, there was a prime opportunity to really address the problems of the original and expand the plot to offer a bigger story. There are levels and events that are missing from this remake that happened in the original, such as the puzzle dealing with the clock tower. It does make an appearance, but you don't enter the building. Capcom have replaced sections of the original game with new locations, so they make good attempts to look upon this classic with a fresh pair of eyes to offer more variety to it, but each location feels short-lived. The original game has less puzzles than the previous entries, which probably contributes to its shorter length. This remake has even less puzzles. It's more about flicking switches or combining liquids, as it shifts to keep the game moving forward as the action becomes the main focus. With the encounter with Mr. X from RE2 being so tense and scary when he chases after you, you hear that stomping sound putting you on edge as you try to get away. Coming face to face with the Nemesis, it is unfortunately scripted and doesn't work quite as well, as you lose control of the game to watch an elaborate cutscene with moments to press a button to continue your escape. Your battles with him are mostly boss fights, which vary in difficulty with each new encounter. There are moments where you just have to narrowly avoid him in the streets, and that's where the tense moments occur, but those don't last for long. The game brings over the dodge move that was in the original game, and it proves very handy in avoiding the zombies and the Nemesis with these quick punch attacks, which do a lot of damage. Using this move certainly helps conserve ammo if you don't have to return to a certain section of the game. Your guns can be modified with attachments for your standard pistol and shotgun. I did find magnum ammo on my first playthrough, but never found the gun. I must have missed a room or something. Is the game scary? It started off failing to make me jump at all. It only becomes a bit tense when you're dealing with the spiders, as I hate them, and when you play as Carlos and enter the hospital. The use of lighting and not knowing what is around the corner certainly makes it a bit unsettling, and the score to the game is very impressive in setting the tone and creating an atmosphere. There are new monsters introduced and some old favourites. The game certainly gives you plenty of zombies to shoot, which is always fun. I'm always disappointed when they dial back the use of zombies in these games to continuously throw stronger monsters at you as you progress through it. On my first playthrough, I completed the game in just under 5 hours, and I took my time with it, reading all the notes and checking everywhere for additional ammo and herbs. So the game is way too short, I think, for a full price game. For £40 or say $60, you don't really get much in return for your money, especially compared to the length of Resident Evil 2. Sure, you can do a speed run through the game, but in terms of the scale of this new remake and what it offers, RE3 is short in that department. Depending on how you performed in the game and what items you picked up outside of the ammo and health, you are awarded credits to spend on items for your next playthrough. My first purchase was the Samurai Edge gun. You can also change your outfit or purchase bigger guns. I did have fun playing this game, there's no doubt about that, but with the original game feeling at the time a bit light as a follow-up to RE2, so does this remake unfortunately. I just wish it was longer and the story offered more. Maybe start the game with a choice between Jill and Carlos, see his side of the story as we see him being sent to Raccoon City. In the game, once you stop playing as him, he is off screen for ages. We don't know what he's been up to, and he just turns up for the convenience of the plot. So I think it was a missed opportunity for Capcom to address the issues of the original, so this time round they could offer fans an expanded experience of Raccoon City and the battle with the Nemesis. It's a good game, and I'm sure will please fans of the original, but maybe wait for it to drop in price before putting down £40.